macro, softer issues. And I think if we look at why do people thrive, why do people do well, they do well because they come from systems or ecosystems where, one, they are celebrated, and two, when you tell your mom you want to do something, she actually encourages you, or your parents encourage you. You come from, you are encouraged to do well, and you are almost set up. And sometimes you're not set up with what you really need, but you're set up with confidence, you're set up with passionate people around you who actually steer you on to move forward. So if we look at our country, for instance, I think we've got not to bash us, I think somehow Namibians, we need to build that culture around innovation, around celebrating people who step out of a boat and say, I'm going to walk on water. Because walking on water seems almost impossible. So I'm going to give you an idea that when I was studying at UNA, I registered to do a bachelor's in arts. And not because I wanted to do arts, it's just because I sort of just passed grade 12. Now you sort of like made it through grade 12, and then my mother forced me, you need to go to university. And so I sort of made it into university, and Bachelor of Arts, they said that's the only course that was available. Because at UNAM, if you don't apply up front, you're on the waiting list, and then you can go for late registration, and then you can, but then at late registration, I think all the courses were sort of taken. And I remember telling my dad, oh, I'm a registered student, showed him my student card, and he says to me, what, Bachelor's of Arts? No. My darling, there are no artists in this house, nobody's singing and dancing or acting here. Go back and sort out this degree. But I mean, I couldn't change it at that time, but I did go to the university, and they said to me, no, I can switch my degree to a Bachelor of Commerce. So when I look at startups and I look at innovation, I look at it in a bigger picture kind of thing. Where is our country going? What's the vision for this nation? And so if you look at an organization, for instance, you'll say, this is our vision as a company. We're going to X place. And then you put strategies in place to actually allow you to get to that place. I really believe Namibia is standing at like a tipping point of just stepping either into greatness, or we're going to find ourselves in a place where we're sort of going to be stuck again. And I'll just quickly illustration of walking around the mountain for another 40 years. So we're standing at this gateway that we can either step in, or we're going to walk around the mountain another year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. And what I was thinking is that there must be a place where we are saying, as a country, this is where we are going, and I believe with my whole heart that entrepreneurship and innovation is going to be the key for our nation. One is because we've only got 2-point-something million people in this country, and a lot of space to work with. 2, we have markets around us that we can actually sell our products to. But that needs a passionate people rallying behind their people, that we can go into the rest of the world. I remember sitting at a presentation where Botswana was presenting the investment center to Namibia. And they were like, the head of the investment center is like 40 or something like that. And everybody around her were like these young people. And I'm not saying that the young people are the only ones that should be leading. I think it's important that there's a balance. But what I am saying is just the way they presented their country, the vision for their country. So what's our vision as a nation? Where are we going to? And how does entrepreneurship and innovation fit in there? And then we put the right policies. I think we've got great policies. We've heard it all over every time we know. We've got great policies as a nation. We put great policies in place. But the implementation of those policies sometimes either takes time, or when you start implementing it, you realize, not so great, like the procurement act. And from that place, we then put the startups on the trajectory. One, in Israel, for instance, there's a book called Startup Nation. I would recommend that you read it. And Israel, basically, if you fail in business, they don't chuck you to the side. And we tend to beat up our people when they fail. It's like, it's not, you cannot fail in this country. Who do you think you are to fail? And we need to, instead of doing that, what Israel does is they pull them into a business and they say, teach us where you failed. They learn from that person, and then they allow that person even to go and start another business if you have to. or if you want to. And I think that kind of culture is what we need to nurture. I mean, we've spoken about, so in an ecosystem we've got, I mean, in Namibia we've got the internal, and that's the startup himself or herself. And then you've got the external. But in my opinion, the external seems to be greater, because if you look at everything that Ituna presented, it's all the external factors that are affecting the startup, if one can call it that, just pushing startups into where they're supposed to be. So my take on it is really, I mean, we did a research recently, and I shared it at the Future Females graduation ceremony the other day. And 4 things came out of it, and one thing is also just, and I'm going to fail if I don't say it, is that Namibia needs to develop brands in order for us to sort of make it into the outside world. And that will require that people come out of their places of hiding, wherever they are, and actually get set onto the scene in order for them to move in outside of the country, because we're not going to sell our products here. I'm reminded of My Republic. That was a brilliant concept that came from Namibia. Here's clothes being made in this country. And I guess it didn't have to be only sold in Namibia. It could have been sold everywhere in the world. And it's something that came from our country. And I think in that, how do we celebrate that? How do we make sure that we go and support that? Those who could support it. And then if it's not possible, you decide when you're putting your business together, do I sell in Namibia or do I sell elsewhere in the world? And then I think that's my take on it. So from a macro point of view is Tatapenda. So what's our vision for this nation? Where are we going? And entrepreneurship should fit in there in some way. And then to wrap it up, I'm reminded of, we were at the hotel across the road. Cannot probably mention it because I'm not there, the hotel across the road. And Miles Munro was here, and he asked me, Martha Tilahun, where did you get the dream to start this? And she says when she was a little girl, she used to set up rooms, she used to put things in place, she used to do that. So how do you see all our socio-economic issues being taken care of? It's really allowing for people to live their dreams, live the passion, the dream that you have inside your heart, see it come to pass, and live it out fully. And then you'll start seeing a lot of this GPV and a lot of that stuff will almost fall away, because people are busy with living a life that is significant and whole and complete. And he said to her, and then he turned to the chef and he said to the chef, had she not started the hotel system or the hotel chains that she has done, you would not have had a job. And then he pointed to the waiter and says, you wouldn't have had a job. So people are waiting, that they do that again from a government point of view. People are waiting, and it's not only government's responsibility, but people are waiting for us to step into the startup, for us to step into making sure our dreams are fulfilled, so that other people have a job, so that government has something to do in terms of, not saying that government is not doing anything, I mean just, so government is busy putting policies in place that actually help us. Everybody is fulfilling the role and the purpose that they were put together for. And that's essentially my view on the whole, how do we change the system? For me, it's more on a macro, softer issue, that there are people with dreams, and those dreams must be realized. We are Namibians, and you also have, how would you say, I think it would just be right for us to give startups an opportunity to actually thrive in this nation or outside of the country. Number 2 is that we need to have a vision as a country, and where do startups fit into that vision, and how do we rally around it? And number 3 is how do we as Namibians rally around our own Namibians instead of, bashing them when they fail or when they don't fail. Okay, thank you.